back to Archer Adventures. If you're new here, my name is Jade-Marie and I have a almost 10-year-old daughter called Dawn-louise who was born with only half a heart. She recently had some health hiccups with her heart condition, so if you are new here, please go watch the previous update first because I'm not going to be recapping any of that. So just 2 days after we posted our last video on her health on the 4th of March, we did end up back in hospital again. She went to school for an hour and then the teachers noticed that she looked bluer and colder. So they checked her saturations and they had dropped down to 72% in oxygen, and her oxygen range is 75 to 85, so this is not ideal. So I went up and checked them myself, and they had at this point gone too high. They started going into the 90s. She did have minimal mottling along with this, but she was still very perky and moving about and laughing, and she seemed okay in herself. So I didn't think that we needed an ambulance, and I decided to walk to the bus stop, and I was calling the child assessment unit at the hospital on the way there to let them know that we were coming up with yellow card access. And unfortunately and unexpectedly, they said that we needed to get her into an ambulance because this had happened twice within a short distance from her last visit, and it is a possibility that if it's a rhythm problem she could collapse. So I asked them if we should go back to the school so that she's somewhere safe and private, and they said no, because then they would have to call out another ambulance once we got there and it would take longer for them to get to us. So we ended up sat at the bus stop outside of a shop, having to have a kind of private health conversation over the phone with other strangers stood around us. Bless them, they were a lovely old couple, but they did look quite concerned listening to me explain, you know, all of Dawn-louise's medical stuff and why we needed the ambulance, because once I got off the phone to the CAU, I did have to call the ambulance myself, and it was really hard to explain to them why we needed it because they don't know what her condition is until I've spent a good 5 minutes explaining partially what it is. It doesn't flag up on their system or anything. And unfortunately, whilst we're waiting for the ambulance, we see quite a few others go past with blue lights and everything, but they told us that they had only just dispatched it. It would be a while. And then I get a call, and this ambulance that we'd seen go all the way down the road and then come back again was actually for us. They'd given them the wrong address and they'd been sent to a shopping centre. But the paramedic phoned me and let me know what was going on, and I flagged them down. Now at this point, Dawn-louise was still very alert. She wasn't any more silos than usual, and she was just her normal self kind of. So I was really surprised that once we got into the ambulance, her oxygen had actually dropped down to 62%. So they had to put her on oxygen, and they tried her on 5, 10 and 15. I was really shocked that once we got into the ambulance and they started putting the monitors on, that her oxygen was sat at 62%, and she did start to go darker as they stayed there longer. So they ended up putting an oxygen mask on her, and we managed to stabilise her saturations, but they had to leave her on 15 millilitres of oxygen. And they did an ECG and they did see something that seemed abnormal, but they weren't familiar with her condition, so they couldn't tell if it was to do with that or not. So for the first time, we have been in the ambulance many times before, but for the first time they did have to turn on the blue lights to get us there as soon as possible. Once we did get to the hospital, thankfully we were very lucky, and her cardiologist was there again. So he came and had a look at her, and again he couldn't really see anything to show concern. So they did end up putting her onto an ECG machine all day. But whilst she was having another blue episode where the sats were changing, the ECG machine had to be taken off her and given to another patient who was complaining of chest pain. So unfortunately we did miss what had happened with her, so it meant that we still had to go ahead with booking her in for the ECG tape that would monitor her for 24 hours on its own. They did have a look at the lungs and the way that the blood was going to the lungs, and it did show that for some reason her lungs aren't too happy, and there's a lot of blood going through the fenestration, the hole that they created in her heart during her last open heart surgery. We don't know at the moment what this is. It would be normal to see that within an infection case, but she hadn't been coughing, she didn't have a cold, none of the normal signs that lead to her being unwell. But they did decide when they discharged us to give her 2 different types of antibiotics. One was amoxicillin and another one was a stronger one that was meant for the bugs that are really, really hard to get rid of. And they said, we probably don't think that's what it is, but we need to rule out everything at this point. So she was on those for 5 days and 3 days for the stronger one. We were in hospital from about 11 AM to about 8 PM and we didn't get home till 9 o'clock. So she did have to miss the school the next day as well, because she was already struggling as it was and it no longer felt safe to take her in. This past Monday the 16th, we went and had the 24-hour ECG tape fitted at the hospital, and it was a little scary because the Sunday before we got the first case of coronavirus down here where we live. Thankfully I was very lucky and her cardiologist was in and I was able to speak to him over the phone, and he said that we could postpone the ECG tape fitting. The only problem is we would have to still do it in at least a month or so, and cases are going to get worse from then. So I made the decision to go on the Monday when hopefully there's less risk of her getting it than if we went in a month, especially considering there could be lockdown and we don't know what's going on with her. Thankfully, both times that we went to the hospital, because we had to go in the Monday to have it fitted and then the Tuesday it was taken off, both times we got very, very lucky and it was very quiet. There was not a lot of people there and we managed to keep a safe distance from people. We didn't share an elevator. We used antibacterial. She was in her wheelchair and she had her mask on. So we kind of covered as many possibilities as we could to protect her, and I really feel like that helped. Since then, she has had some cyanotic episodes and it got to the point where her face and hands were really cold, but the rest of her body was a normal temperature, very comfortable. She had no fever, no temperature, but she was shaking and her teeth were chattering. I'm going to insert some clips to show you, and she's very happy in herself. So I did keep her home and it didn't last more than about 5 minutes, but I am having to keep the flat very, very hot for her just to help her in case that is a reason. But it was very warm in the house as it was, so I really don't think that that's what it is. But that is pretty much everything that we have at the moment. I was on the phone to the cardiologist on the Sunday. He did say that he spoke to her cardiologist based in her cardiac hospital and they would like to take a look at her at some point as well, and they do want to go ahead and do a cardiac catheter. It's not 100% confirmed yet, but it's looking a good 90% confirmed at this point, because we don't know what's going on with her. Now, Dawn-louise has had 7 cardiac catheters before, and compared to her 4 open heart surgeries, it isn't as bad, but there is still risk of hemorrhage, stroke, and brain damage and bleeding and death with it. So it's something that we definitely wish that we didn't have to do, but it's not the worst possible procedure that she could be having. It would be purely diagnostic at this point, just so they can get a better look at what's going on. We are 5.5 years post-Fontaine, post her last open heart surgery, so she's had a good run with not having to have any serious surgical procedures or interventions. So it's just kind of seeing how she's going, but she does seem really happy in herself. It's her 10th birthday on Monday, and that's a really, really big milestone for us. So I am really upset that we're not going to get to celebrate her birthday because of the coronavirus. We had planned to have a bowling party on the Saturday, and all her heart friends from all over the south were going to come visit her and attend the party, and they were willing to drive up to 2.5 hours, which is just amazing. And I'm so thankful that we do have those amazing people in our lives, and it really does suck that we can't celebrate her birthday the way that we wanted to. I so just want her to be with her friends and be loved and happy. Next weekend we were supposed to be going on a Haven holiday with another Hart family, because we really enjoyed our holiday last year, and it was only going to be a weekend thing, but we were really excited for it, and we have had to cancel that. And I had holiday insurance, so it's been refunded, so that's good. But I probably won't be able to afford to take us on holiday now till next March, because the prices are like triple during the summers. We are looking at isolation for the next 12 weeks because of the coronavirus. I'm going to sort of talk about that in another video. I kind of want this one to be short and compact and to the point. I think if I can, because we're under 1,000 subscribers, so I'm not sure if I can still, but I want to try and do a live stream to explain the coronavirus and how we're handling it. But we are fully isolated, so we are currently safe. Neither of us are showing any symptoms, but both of us are high risk. I have asthma and obviously she has her heart condition. So it really has been a hard time for us, but we're going to try and vlog a little bit and give ourselves something to do. And I've got another plan going ahead, hopefully with Team Heart, because I really just want to work with them more. I love them all so much. And yeah, but this is kind of a sad video, and the more I think about the birthday and everything and the surgery, it just it does upset me because she was doing so well, and I really, when we went in, I thought they were going to tell me, you know, you're over the top, you're being too sensitive about it, she's fine, go home. I really wasn't expecting her to need another cardiac catheter and everything. I don't know how long it will take for the results from the ECG to come through, so we'll have to wait and see, and I will give you an update for that as well. But yeah, there'll be some normal vlogs coming up soon, but all of our big plans have been cancelled. We were going to go to our first single ventricle event in Birmingham. That was cancelled. We were going to go to Haven, her birthday, and there was some other little things here and there as well. So yeah, all the fun vlogs that I promised, sorry, are not coming because we're not going. So yeah, but yeah, thank you to everyone who has reached out to us on Instagram as well to, you know, see how we're doing through all this. I really do appreciate it. And special thanks to the Despicable 3 for their lovely birthday present to Dawn-louise. That's going to be all for this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Everybody gives you advice, yeah, on how to live your life, how to live your life. Don't you know that life is full of surprises? You better realize, better realize.